All right, so thank you, class, for coming to the lesson today. I just placed in the chat box the requirement. It's urgent requirements for the midterm report card. So all the requirements here must be emailed to the school on the email of Averroes Academy Center at gmail.com. The school principal is expecting this from you today. What you are going to send, you are going to send him the OEN student number, your school name and address, telephone number, and your own address, and your report card of grade 11. Your report card that you get from your original school, not the summer school that you are in now, you're going to attach a copy or a picture of your grade 11 report to the school administration. Send all the information again on that email. Okay, so I'm going to give you time to do this, and then afterwards we're going to resume discussion of Act 2 from The Tempest and a bit of Act 3, and then we will have a bit of activity. Okay? Recording is okay. All right, class. So thank you for sending the email to the school administration with the required information for your report card for the first term. We'll continue working on The Tempest. We will continue working on analyzing the great works of Shakespeare. As you can see, I'm really fond of that great author, because every time I tell you this, his greatness, he's considered to be a legend in the world of literature, simply because what he wrote many years ago is living until the end of history, until the end of life. Because what he wrote about is the human characteristics that are found in every ethnicity, in every culture, past, present, and the future. That is why we call Shakespeare a great writer. All right, so it is important for you as a student of grade 12 to be able to analyze the characters that Shakespeare drew. And it is also important for you to analyze any soliloquy or any scene that is taken from the play. We will discuss how to analyze a scene or how to talk about it. And now I want you to understand how to do character analysis. So in simple formula, I can simply tell you what are the steps, because you will have a question, you will have an exam, a quiz to ask you to analyze one of Shakespeare's characters. So first of all, you need to identify the type of the character. What type of the character? Is the character dynamic? What does dynamic mean? It means the character undergoes a certain development. There is change happening to this character. Is it dynamic or is it static? When it is static, meaning it remains the same, no change happens, it's the same. So you have to, first of all, do your thinking. And by the way, what I tell you now will help you and, prevent you from just trying to find answers online and then you try to use your own words. It's if you know it, if you know the steps, as you can see, it's like 1, 2, 3, 4. These are the steps and the questions you can ask yourself when you are analyzing a character. You don't have to go online if you follow those steps. So first of all, if the character starts like, as a person who is weak, to all the story, the person is weak, or, everybody is taking advantage of that character, and by the end of the character, by the end of the story, the character just dies or just surrenders or just give up fighting or just allows everybody to take advantage of this character. So there is no development, no development. This character is static, no change. But if the same story, I'll tell you now, a person who starts like, so kind and naive, and a person who doesn't do anything, doesn't do any reactions, but because of the events of the story, he started to learn his or her lessons the hard way. In that concern, the character is developing, is moving, is changing. So here we call it dynamic. So I would like to see you, when you are writing your character analysis, to write those words. This character is dynamic. This character is static. If you use those words, I would definitely understand that you have been paying attention and you are listening to me, not only just, you're not copying from the internet. So first of all, you need to identify what type of character. Then you need to see the role of the character in the story. What does he or she do? What is the role they play? What is the primary role of the character? Mentioned if the character is the protagonist or the villain. So protagonist is the good person in the story or the hero of the story. The villain is also a hero, but in a bad way, like the enemy of the protagonist, or the person who tries to steal from the protagonist, the person who conspires or has wicked plans against the protagonist. It could be, by the way, the hero of the story could be the villain. Sometimes you read a story where the main character is a bad character. It's okay, because this is the main character. You have to mention these also, if they are the villain or the protagonist. Antagonist is somebody who might be opposing to the main character, but not necessarily to be a villain. So you need to identify, like, when I'm telling you this, I want you to think of the characters of The Tempest, our assigned drama for this unit is to do The Tempest. Think about the protagonist of The Tempest. Who is the kind person here? Who is the villain? Who is the wicked person? And who is the person who never changes? And who is the person who undergoes a lot of a change? So while I'm talking to you now, I wish that you are thinking about the characters of the story and try to label them or categorize them. Now, what role did the character do? How they add to the plot? This word is plot, not pot, plot. L. So how did they react to the plot? What did they do? And what is the role they played in the rising events? And how did they shine towards the end? What will happen to them towards the end? What development they bring to the story? Sometimes the example I gave you, the character who is so naive and kind and doesn't do anything, maybe because of this character, the people around him or her started to feel guilty. So this could be a role played by a static character who didn't do anything or didn't undergo any change, but they play a significant role with the people around the same character. So here, if you use this, I would understand that you are smart in your analyzing the character, and also you have critical thinking. So as I mentioned, sometimes you have somebody who did nothing, but people around this person started to feel guilty, and the people started to change because of this character. So it's like an indirect way this character could bring the best of the people around him without even moving one finger. And I want you to use those wonderful expressions and talk about it and express your own thoughts using your own words. Don't be afraid to use your own words. as long as it comes from your understanding and using evidence from the story. Speaking of evidence, here is a really, really important piece you have to mention, because I give you marks for everything. There is a mark for identifying the character. There is a mark for showing the development. There is a mark for bringing a proof from the story itself. You can give me a proof from a word the character said to himself, like a soliloquy. Or you can give me a proof from character when the character says so to character B, it reflects that character A is so and so and so. You know what I mean? So the proof would be you answer those questions. Why do you think your character is the protagonist or the antagonist? If you say he is opposing all the time, when the character A tries to do something good, the antagonist always turns him off. So you can give me a proof, whether it is by action or by words. What is the first significant action the character takes in the story? Recall what it was the first thing they did. Remember Fernando, when he first landed on the island, the first action he did was to carry the wood. Why was he carrying the wood on the island? Because he wanted to help the men and the people who are survivors on the island to use the wood, whether it is to build a fire or to use it in a useful thing. So what does this action reflect? Do you think Fernando is a good person? Is he collaborative? Is he cooperative? Is he a person with good intentions? You would be able to decide giving me examples. Okay? Why do you think your character behaves the way they do? Like, again, if you say Ariel was like, flying from one spot to the other, why do you think, why is he not stable in one area? Why did he keep moving from one area to the other? You need to think it over. Is it because the nature of this creature is just to be restless? Or is the character, does he plan to create problems? Does he plan to cause troubles to the people on the island? Why he kept moving? So you have to think it over. All right, another question. What words or expressions did the character use to prove their point of view? If somebody says, hail, which is like peace upon you, it's something like, I want peace. So when they say hail, this is a Shakespearean word or a greeting word meaning like welcome everyone. So when a character uses this word, we can get an understanding that this character is a person who wants to spread peace, unless this character is using those words to deceive other people. So when you read the story and when you read the play, you start to understand, are they really kind or not? Are they really pretending or they are hiding double face? Okay? So you also need to how do the characters' actions influence the way the story unfolds? So you need to tell me or to show me in your writing how this action makes a difference in the story, or this action changes something. So when you, as you will see, or you read in Act 2, you will see that Ariel will throw the dinner table. Why? What does this mean? Why is he doing this or that? So you need to figure out the actions of the characters. Now, also another important piece when you are analyzing a character, you need to shed light on the character relationships all through the play, especially with the protagonist. You need to show me, like in Hamlet, for example, all the people around Hamlet, the friends, were supporting him. And the people opposing him are the king and his own mother, but his own mother in not intentionally. Okay, so if you are going to describe the mother of Hamlet, you need to mention her relation to Hamlet. If you are going to talk about Gertrude, you need to describe the relation to the main character and also to each other. Like in The Tempest now, you need to tell me what is the relation between Fernando and Miranda, Fernando and Prospero, Fernando and the rest of the people. So this is really important for you to tie the knots, okay? So identify the relationships, and there is a good chance multiple other characters play important role in the story. So one character can play different roles in the story. That character can be at one point a good character, and another point could be a wicked character. You need to show all the faces of the character. And how to do that to help you is to figure out who is the main antagonist, who is the main character. Not all relationships are positive. Sometimes you have a whole story based on a bad character. It doesn't matter as long as you understand that the main antagonist in the story is doing this way, and his or her relationship is this way all through the story. You show me the development, you show me the changes, and so on and so forth. And who are the allies? Who are the friends of the character? You need to mention that. All right, I'm sure you have seen the movie The Lord of the Rings or the series or something. So if you think of Frodo, has an entire band that travels with him. I think maybe most of you've seen this series, so you understand who are the allies, who are the friends, okay? Are there any characters that your character has to protect? This is really important because you will see this in The Tempest. There is a person who would be also trying to protect the other people. Who are they? You're supposed to know now. Who are they? Who is the person who acts like a tender, caring father, but at the same time, he wants to revenge, okay? So he was protecting Miranda, his daughter, all the time. Remember, they were thrown out at the island at a very young age when Miranda was just 3 years old. So they have been there. And what did the father or Prospero do? So this is, again, a very good example to show the protection side. Does the character have any family members? So these 2 points applicable to our story and the Prospero and his daughter. Remember, Prospero and his brother. Also, there is a good relation here. Of course, it wasn't good because his brother was the person who conspires against him to throw him on the island. So also you need to show the relationship between the family members, whether they have a respectful and loving, caring relationship, or a relationship that is filled with problems and envy and hatred and all of that. Okay. Final words is to explore the characters' evolution, how they moved up, whether it is dynamic or round the character. And sometimes you see the expression in exam questions. Who is the round the character? So I want you now to understand what do we mean by round the character. Round the character meaning a dynamic character, undergoes a lot of a change. Started maybe flat and now they developed. And by the way, just want to tell you that sometimes the static character, the static meaning the person who does nothing, can also have a lot of distinctions in them. So it doesn't matter if they are doing an action or not. Sometimes they have a difference in the events of the story. Sometimes they have some additions on the story, or they can affect the rising actions and they can affect the plot of the story. Okay, so this is just the tips on how to analyze a character. So you will have a question. I think it's worth marks to analyze a character in the story. I'm not saying who is the character, but this is how to analyze any character in literary work, whether it is in a novel or drama or any kind of literature. Okay, any questions, anyone? Do you have any questions? Comments? Is everything clear? Any questions? Okay. So the next thing we will be doing is to go on for Act 3. We will have some information quick, as every student, they like to have the summary given. So this is Act 3, Scene 1. So quickly to just have an idea what is happening.
In Act 3, Scene 1 of The Tempest, Prospero watches Ferdinand and Miranda in secret. Ferdinand is carrying logs as required by Prospero, but he does not complain because it allows him to serve Miranda. The very instant that I saw you did my heart fly to your service. There resides to make me slave to it. He only regrets that she is sad for his hard labor. Miranda encourages the exhausted Ferdinand to rest, and she even offers to carry the logs herself. Miranda tells Ferdinand her name. Ferdinand, in turn, pledges his deep love and devotion to her. Prospero, hearing their exchange, recognizes the true nature of their love and celebrates it. Then he hurries away to perform the other activities he has to orchestrate that day. Romantic love is the focus of the scene as the two young lovers explore the character of their affection. Ferdinand's slavery for Prospero is a kind of a voluntary servitude intended to keep him near his beloved. Miranda, too, offers complete devotion to Ferdinand. I am your wife if you will marry me. If not, I'll die your maid. To be your fellow you may deny me, but I'll be your servant whether you will or no. Both lovers exhibit a romantic view of love in which lovers have no defects and allegiance is total. Both the theme of magical power and the symbol of magical books continue as Prospero rushes away to his book to help him juggle all the circumstances and individuals he is manipulating and orchestrating throughout the play.
So this is the first scene. Can you write down what is the most powerful message in Act 1, Scene 1? Sorry, in Act 3, Scene 1. Please write down your thoughts before we continue for Scene 2. Just one word or two in the chat box. Tell me, what do you think the most powerful message or the most important thing that you could come up with in Act 3, Scene 1? Share your thoughts. So this is part of your class interaction. Okay, so you can tell that the message is a message of love and peace in Act 3, Scene 1. Also, that the father is caring for his daughter and he wished her all the happiness. Despite that, the guy Fernando is the son of his enemy. However, the father wouldn't stop the happiness for his daughter. So there is here the kind of caring for his daughter. All right, so now we'll have a look at the next scene.
In Act 3, Scene 2 of The Tempest, the drunken trio of Caliban, Stefano, and Trinculo returns, and Caliban complains about Prospero while promising his loyalty to Stefano instead. However, Caliban has no loyalty to Trinculo, and the two have constant conflict. When invisible spirit Ariel enters the scene, their conflict increases. Using Trinculo's voice several times, Ariel accuses Caliban of lying. An enraged Caliban demands Stefano deal harshly with Trinculo. Stefano repeatedly asks Trinculo to stop being a nuisance, which only frustrates Trinculo more because he isn't actually speaking. Amidst the confusion, Stefano ends up beating Trinculo. Caliban describes how Prospero cheated him out of the island through sorcery and pleads with Stefano to destroy Prospero and take what belongs to him, including his daughter Miranda. Caliban explains that he can bring Stefano to exactly the right place at the right time. He even gives him a specific strategy. First, take away his books, which will make him powerless, and then brain him, batter his skull, conch him with a stake, or even cut his throat. Caliban asks the men to sing, and invisible Ariel again intervenes and plays a more beautiful song. The men are afraid, but Caliban tells them not to fear. There's a beautiful, dreamlike natural music on the island. The treatment of Caliban by Stefano and Trinculo in this scene develops the theme of power and exploitation. Caliban, a native inhabitant of the island, wants to be ruled by Stefano rather than by Prospero. This raises the question, why can't Caliban rule himself? The false idea that primitive natives needed to be ruled by wiser, more sophisticated people was very appealing to Europeans who wanted to build colonies. So Caliban's desire to be ruled may be an attempt to represent that idea in action. Stefano seems to take care of Caliban's needs now that he has some authority over him. He tells Trinculo to stop accusing Caliban. The poor monster's my subject, and he shall not suffer indignity. Ariel's actions in this scene also have a humorous effect because the audience can see that it is Ariel rather than Trinculo speaking, but the characters do not. And speaking of magic, the symbol of the magic books reappears here as Caliban explains their importance to Stefano as part of the plot to destroy Prospero. To neutralize his power, they must first possess his books, for without them he's but a sot as I am, nor hath not one spirit to command.
So this scene is absolutely important. It's extra important. And I'm going to give you a question in the quiz for finding the similarity between the colonization that did happen in the last century when Britain, France, and Italy took over almost the Middle East, of course. Remember that Britain invaded and occupied Egypt, Palestine, and other countries, Sudan too. And remember, Italy occupied and invaded Libya, and France invaded Syria and Lebanon. These are the Middle East that were taken over by the superpowers at that time. Almost the same story is happening here, and especially in this very scene. I want you please to look at this scene in depth. You know what the meaning of in depth? You need to be critical. You have to think carefully. You are going to have a tough question very soon. I'm going to give you exam question in this concern, the similarity between what is happening in this story and what happened in our world. The colonization, the professor, the videos I showed you, it's for the professor of the university, which is really, really amazing. Her analysis is absolutely amazing. So this is a very important scene. I can ask you questions about this scene. Why do you think this scene is important? This is going to be your classwork. You are going to analyze Act 3, Scene 2. And I want you to analyze it in writing right now, but after the break. So why, again, this scene is really, really important, because it discusses lots of things. What are the themes that you can figure out? Can you write down in the chat box at least this time? What are the topics that this scene introduces? What are the topics that this scene talks about, refers to? Important ideas, what are they? Can you please write them in the chat box? Okay, so as I mentioned, Act 3, Scene 2 is extremely important. And I'm going to share with you an assignment that I would like you to do in class. This is a class activity. So you go back to Act 3, Scene 2. And as you remember, I can always refer you to the resource where you see the modern English for the Old English, Shakespeare English that is in Act 3, Scene 2. So I want you in your class activity to analyze this scene, to tell me who were there, who are the characters that were there, what did they talk about, what is the conspiracy here, and what are the themes discussed here. Important themes mentioned here, and that's why, by the way, Act 3 is only 2 scenes, because this is a master scene, if I may call it a master scene, because it is really important, and you can also relate what happened here in the story to what happened in our world, the past century, with the colonization, and when the superpowers invaded the Middle East and conquered many countries. That's why this scene is really, really important, and I want you to look at it into a strong depth. So take your break and come back to work on this assignment. Any questions so far? Can you see the post on the Google Classroom? Can you confirm you can see it?